joy to introduce my friend Sid Mashburn to all of you. If you've never been into his store, I promise it'll be an experience you never forget. He's a fashion, I loosely say icon. I don't know how that makes you feel. Not just in Atlanta, but honestly, J.Crew would be the person that would probably say that about him. He has been in the fashion industry for years. He's a leader, and he specifically chose Atlanta to be the place where he built his brand. And it's an honor to interview him. Please welcome Sid Mashburn. I promise you're going to learn a lot of stuff from him today. So first off, I know there's 3 words that you really focus on: connect, share, and edify. Explain those to me.
Anyway, thank you for having me today. It's a little hard to follow up the Shinola guy, but anyway, those 3 pieces are probably what fuel Ann's and my whole life purpose is how do we connect with people? And it's funny because growing up, I've always worked in clothing stores or in restaurants, and the commonality there is taking care of people. And Ann's father is a longtime veteran of retail, so she grew up in the food business as well. And when we lived in New York, New York we were there for roughly 15 years all told, but it's a place where you just kind of gather friends because you don't really bring a lot of friends with you. So most all of your friends are usually new friends. So we were always looking, and we didn't have a lot of dough. So it's like, how do we get people together? Just invite them over to our apartment and connect with them and also share our music and our food and just fellowship. And finally is edifying, is how do we, when they leave, how do we make them feel lifted up and really like we took care of them and enjoyed their company, and hopefully they can go out and share that with their friends.
That's awesome. Well, you've been in the fashion industry for a long time. You have a story. Can you explain to us how you've gotten to where you are?
Okay, it's a bit circuitous, so I apologize if I start prattling, so you can always pull me back a little bit. I grew up in Mississippi, which is, everybody here knows, is the locus of fashion. And as soon as I got my driver's license, actually, funny enough, my grandparents had a dry goods store in Pelahatchie, Mississippi, which is nowheresville, pretty much. They had a hardware store, a clothes store, and a furniture store. And so funny enough, it was in my blood, and I didn't even realize it really until a couple of years ago when my mother said that. And so anyway, as soon as I got my driver's license, I was applying for a job at a clothing store as Busick's Menswear in Pearl, Mississippi. And that and working in restaurants was all I did throughout college. And I asked my dad, midway through, I was at Ole Miss, and I was up to mostly no good. And I said, Dad, I want to go to design school. And in his inimitable way, he said, son, let me tell you something. I'll help you finish regular school, and then you can do whatever you want. And so I finished school and went up to New York and went to work for a clothing store. And they were pulling straw out of my hair when I was in New York. I was about as country as you can get up there. And so anyway, I got to work in this pretty cool clothing store, and I met a guy who owned a company called British Khaki, and he said, I'd like for you to come sell for me. And I had tried to get into FIT into Parsons, and they were kind of brushing me off. I said, well, will you teach me how to design? And he said, sure. And so sure enough, I got there and he taught me how to pitch colors, which essentially would say, pitching colors means how do I place the colors in that pattern. He taught me how to analyze fabrics. He taught me how to do silhouettes. I mean, really, it was a little bit of an apprenticeship. It was cool. And I was like, this is awesome. I was making no money. And I met my future wife on the beach, and it was not the Hamptons, trust me. It's kind of a notch above Coney Island. So anyway, we met, and she at the time was working at Vogue, and if anybody ever saw Devil Wears Prada, she was the Anne Hathaway character. She worked for the creative director of Vogue then, whose name was Polly Mellon. And, it was tears every night because it was brutal. I mean, it was a very hard, demanding job, just like the movie. And so anyway, a friend of hers left there and went to work for this nameless startup catalog company in New Jersey, which, that combination's pretty deadly. And so I met her at a party, and she's like, gosh, we're looking for people to come join us, and, gosh, you'd be great in design. And I still wasn't a designer, but I knew enough about it that I could, get around it. And so turns out it was J.Crew. And so I went there in 1985.
They have a name now.
They've got a name now, yeah. And that was 1985. I would reverse commute from Manhattan out to New Jersey every day. It was a blast. I mean, I'd get there at 7 o'clock in the morning and not leave till 8:30 at night. It's like, this is my dream. It was fantastic. And at the time, if any of you were J.Crew customers, the cool thing about J.Crew is there was no logo and the prices were good. And in the early 90s, Ralph Lauren came to recruit me from there because he was upset. He's like, J.Crew's taking my customer. And one thing they didn't understand at Polo was that the value proposition of J.Crew was way more salient than they thought it was. When you can sell a piece of outerwear, the barn jacket, which I did when I first got there, that helped me keep my job for a while. It was $88, which is it's pretty awesome. So every college kid on the East Coast had, a barn jacket. But anyway, I left there and went to work for Polo, which was like going to grad school at, Harvard or Stanford or somewhere, and it was a fantastic education. And always wanting to become a designer on my own, so that was always in the back of my mind. And at this time, we were growing a family, so doing that, jumping off of a well-paying job in a very stable environment was impossible at that point, because to do it the way I wanted to do it was going to be very expensive. And so anyway, we went out to a guy that started Ashworth Clothing Company, invited me to come to California and start a retail concept. And it was basically what Sid Mashburn today has become. But it was in California back in the late 90s. And it didn't come to life. And there I was I'd moved my family from New York to San Diego, 3 kids. And actually, we had another one while we were in San Diego. So we had 4 girls at that time. And so my wife and I were looking at each other like, okay, so what do we do now? And so I did some consulting for Ashworth for a while and then moved back east. And I had a small company that I started up that was a disaster. It was, at least financially, it was a disaster. And it was hard. It was very difficult on myself. It was very difficult on my wife. It was hard on our family, but it was a great time too, because we spent a lot of time together and we made some really great friends. And if I can just go off this to frontage road for a second, living in the moment is critical. Just enjoying that space where you are. And I think Mr. Hoey this morning kind of alluded to it. You're going to have some 5s, but you know what? You got to stay in the pocket. And so anyway.
So then you decided to move to Atlanta, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
I then went to New York.
Okay, you went
worked
back to
for Tommy Hilfiger. Then went out to work for Lands' End. Was there for 6+ years, and left there. And my wife said, and I said, I told her I wanted to start the store. Now we had 5 kids. She was like, "You got to be kidding me." And so she said, and finally she relented and said, "Okay, we're going to lose all of our money, but you know what? We've been poor before, and we'll figure it out, and we'll do it over." And so we looked at 9 cities, got it down to Chicago and New York. And then she said, "How about Atlanta?" I said, "How about let's go?" And I came down here, and what was really cool is that Atlanta at the time was still fairly nascent, in its development. The restaurants were just coming on. You could feel something was afoot.
How many years ago was that?
We came in 2007, right when the economy was just taking off.
Yep. That was a great time to launch a business.
Perfect. But anyway, so we were looking for a space though that was unlike anything else. Because in the end, or in the beginning or in the end, I'm a designer, and I like to think that I kind of know what's on the other side of the hill, or at least want to know about what's on the other side of the hill. So we always want to offer what's on the other side of the hill. So I drove from the underground to Buckhead and all around the city for 4 days. Walked away. The first place I went to actually was Taqueria for dinner. And I'm like, why in the world am I standing in a line for a $2 taco in Atlanta? And so Friday, discouraged, I went back to Taqueria, and that parking lot, if anybody of you know White Provisions, that parking lot was teeming. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And so I went into the kids store there, Braithwaite, and I said, "Hey, what would you think if y'all had a men's clothing store here?" They were like, "It would be fantastic." I walk around to the back of the shop, And sure enough, the guy's packing up. It's the old Switch store. He's packing up to move across the street. The spot was becoming vacant with 3,000 square feet, which is almost exactly what we needed. And so things came together. My wife came down, looked at schools. We hustled this thing off. This was February of 07. And we opened up in October of 07 with myself, a tailor, and one other guy. And then Ann was, making the business work from the finance perspective. And so it was a little bit of a slog, but it's been fantastic being here. And the one thing I will say about Atlanta, and I think you hear that also from the guy from Shinola, is anywhere where you go, you're looking for encouragement and optimism. And I'll talk in a second about our core values. Our core values came from our people and our experience here. And the first two things we really experienced here, besides a great opportunity to do something special, was hopefulness and helpfulness. And it may sound a little shallow, and can be, but everybody we met in this town was like, what do you need? How can I help you? And everybody we met was like, you know what, today's a pretty good day, and I think tomorrow's going to be better. And I think that Atlanta kind of exudes that, and there are other cities that exude that too, but we needed that at that time, because as one of the things I've said along the way, the currency of encouragement spends longer than cash.
Say that again.
The currency of encouragement spends longer than the cash. You've got to have that hope and that optimism, and you need other people to come around you to kind of pick you up a little bit.
That's so good.
It was good.
And now I know I love hearing you talk about that location that you chose and hearing you think about your neighbors. Can you explain that?
Do you mind if I go to the
Go
whiteboard?
for it, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, this is a little small, but I'm going to move it back so these guys can see it too, if y'all don't mind. Okay, so the thing that we love, we had a guy who's a very well-to-do farmer in North Georgia come into our store, and he picked up a Brunello Cucinelli down vest. It was like $1,200, and I was like, when he went to do this, and this guy could afford to buy every stitch of clothes in our store. When he went to do that, I just felt sick at my stomach thinking, what in the world do you have a $1,200 down vest doing in your store? I'm not that guy, really. Now a nice one in cash. I mean, it's to a lot of people that would be worth it. But one of the things we always wanted to express to the people that come in across our threshold, first of all, we want to hug them with our eyes when they walk in. It's like, if we can't get to them, it's like we've got to give them a hey, man, or a hey, girl, what's going on? And we're quick to offer a drink. Do you want a Coke or a water or beer or coffee? We'll grab you a coffee, whatever you want. The idea is you're inviting someone into your home, and you want them to smell the cookies baking when they come in the door. Okay, so anyway, the attraction to that place is we wanted to always have a product mix that was accessible to a lot of people. So if you look on this triangle, the way we structure our merchandise is G for good, B for better, and B plus for best. Okay? I learned that from a guy, General Wood, who worked at Sears, ran merchandising at Sears in probably the 40s. And at Sears, it would be Amana on good, Kenmore on better, and Viking on best. Okay? At that center over there, interestingly, Taqueria, JCT, Bacchanalia. So we found a place that already was complementary of what our values are. And for us, that's Levi's jeans at $65 a pair. Our shirts that start at $125, which is not inexpensive, but for what it is, it's an unbelievable value. And then a pair of Edward Green shoes that start at $1,300. But those Edward Green shoes, if you take care of them and get a proper resole every 3-4 years, they'll last you for 30 years. No joke. So everything we're always wanting to do is provide a massive amount of value. Now that's also thinking we're going to be designing it too, because we want to design, we want to express who we were meant to be, and that's creative beings. So anyway, going into that center, we loved that whole
Because
connection.
your neighbors had a similar set of values and mediums, right?
Yeah, because even at Taqueria, even though it's a $2 taco, it's all fresh made daily. And Eddie Hernandez there is a fantastic chef. You know, and some would say, you know, he might be as good as Annie Quattrano in some ways. I don't know if I could make that comparison, but anyway.
That's fantastic. The number one question, this is a little diversion. The number one question I had from friends prepping, honestly, for Plywood Presents is, what are you going to wear when Sid Mashburn, you know, to interview Sid Mashburn? Yes. I mean, I got it easily 10 times. And so I said that to Sid. So Sid dressed me today. So this is a little something for him.
Actually, it's one of our guys that dressed him, a guy named Chris Kaufman. And the most important thing is we don't like to dictate, but we do like to help shape you. But we don't want everybody to come out of there looking just like a carbon copy of each other. We want enough spread that we, you know, part of the thing about the good, better, best also is, you know, our youngest customer ever was 11. Our oldest customer ever is 87. Okay? We love that. We have customers from, you know, Little Five, and we have customers from Buckhead. And what we're really trying to build, to go back to the connecting and the sharing and the edifying is how do you build a cultural crossroads, a place where lots of different types of people can come connect with each other. And the guys from Little Five, you know, with full sleeve, you know, he's in there on a Saturday getting his Levi's tapered. And there's a banker from Buckhead getting, sorry to sound so cliche, but, you know, a businessman from Buckhead getting his suit fitted. And they're both looking at each other going, what are you doing in here? How'd you get here? And the other part that's super important is to have a setting where you feel comfortable. Again, you're probably offered a drink too many times in there, but the music's important. Just the general feeling is important. There's a guy from, I can't remember where he's from, but he wrote this about this idea called the third place. Do you know the third place? Yeah. Third place is, you know, where typically the first place is your home, second place is your work. What's your third place? And, you know, for my wife, it might be her book club, or for a man, it might be the golf course or the 19th hole, or, you know, the moto club that pitched last night. You know, what's the third place? We don't want it to take the place of your third place, but we certainly want it to feel as open and as welcome and as inviting as your third place would be.
So if I were to take anyone in there, what would they experience if they've never been in your store?
A lot of friendliness, a lot of people wanting to take care of you, and offer to drink. Anything in particular you want to hear, because we spin records, so we'll take requests.
And in the midst of getting fitted for a suit, you could play a game of ping pong, right?
And you can play a game of ping pong or a game of backgammon. And one other thing that we really like is that we have the tailors. It's an open tailor shop, so that we have a total of 11 tailors that work for us. But 4 of them are on the floor always, and one of them's a master tailor. That means you could walk in, he could look at you and make a suit that would fit you. He's like a super black belt of tailor. But anyway, the tailors are super important. They're not just for show. I mean, because we do a lot of alterations and a lot of tailoring. Because the other thing is some guys, you know, a guy who's a little fuller wants a pant that's a touch fuller, and if he comes in, he tries something on, we say, we can let that out for you. Or if a guy says, hey, I want it super tight, we can do that for him too. And that goes back to, we have a pretty good range of where we like to see things, but if someone wants a little more specialized, we'll do that for them.
Okay, when I came and hung out with you in your, I guess it's not really the shop. What's the other space that you call that?
The shed.
The shed, yeah, where you're really designing things. We were sitting at a table together, and you opened up this book. And it's on, this is it right here. This is tell us about this.
When we started out, we had three people, and so it was pretty easy to communicate with each other because there's no one else to talk to. We didn't have any customers yet, so.
And 2 of them were you and Ann.
And so anyway, we, as the company continued to grow, and we, at a certain point, we brought in a guy named David Supple, who's our partner, and Ann and I, you know, we're, again, she's more of an editor, I'm more of a designer, and we kind of go back and forth. We trade places a lot. But we brought in David Supple, who's really runs our business for us. And so anyway, as we sat and talked, it's like, how do we really pass on what we're about? It's got to be more than just the oral tradition. So we came up with a book that we call our culture kit. And in our culture kit, we worked on it, for a few months to get it right. But what we were trying to do is give a book to everyone in the company that they owned. It was not just our manifesto. It was something that we felt like we had learned from them and that we could share back and forth with them. So anyway, we started with what are our core values? And the first two core values were hopefulness and helpfulness. And then the second two core values that came along came from our lead tailor, Quang Dao. And I said, Dao, what is it you look for when you're hiring a tailor? What's your criteria? He said, in his broken English, he said, honesty and hard work. And so those became two of our core values. And then the last two are honor and humility. And, I tell the guys, on the floor, you still, even though we want you to be humble, and mostly the natural spirit of the guys that work for us and girls, there's humility about them. But also to have some confidence, too. And it really is a mix of humility and confidence that really works well with taking care of customers. But since then, we've been able to, we've delivered this to over 100 people that have worked for us. Today we have 75 people working for us in Atlanta and in Houston. And it was almost as important for Ann, David, and myself to get this down as it is to share it with the people that work with us. And I just gave the presentation to 3 new employees last week in Houston. And what's nice is the people that work for us continue to give back to this and really add to our culture, because we are a people culture.
And I mean, you just see a black book right there, but when he opened it up and started showing it to me, it is it's letterpress, right? Or it's
it's not, but
it's at a similar level. Yeah. I mean, it is a gorgeous book that he gives everyone. It was interesting to see him walk through that and say, here's this piece of what we value, and here's how this plays out every day with our team. I think it was an incredible example of how to go from startup, right, to having a team that you're communicating that they're representing the brand as much as you would.
Well, the other nice thing to it, Jeff, is that we are not in a massive hurry to do what we do. The business will grow as it needs to grow. And we think it's important to slow down just a little bit. That's one reason we're not open on Sundays. That's one reason we don't, we take all the holidays. We're not looking for every last dollar. We're looking to take care of people in the right time and in the right space. We don't ever want anyone to, when they come in, to feel hurried or rushed into making a decision. But one of the things that we talk about a lot is how do we provide a man and a woman economy of time, mind, and money? Okay, so the economy of time is, many stores would say, when you come to our store, we want you to stay as long as possible because then you'll buy more. We want to get a guy or a girl in and out of the store as quickly as possible, because there are more fun things to do for them in their life outside of Ann and Sid Mashburn. Whether it's to be with their kids or go hunting or playing golf or go sailing, whatever it is, there's a lot more to do than just shopping. So that's the economy of time, is how do we save time? How do we know what your sizes are? How do we know what your tastes are? How do we know what a wardrobe should look like for any particular occasion? And that's where it starts to get into the economy of mind, okay? And economy of mind is we don't want to sell you a lot of clothes. We want to sell you the right clothes, okay? Because then that makes your decision making in the morning a lot easier, okay? And that's probably that's a hang up for a lot of people. Even for me in the morning, I'm like, oh shoot, what am I going to wear today? Everybody has that moment. It's like, if you have less clothes and the right clothes, it'll be easier to pick them. And so we've shopped, we've worked through, we've edited the world to bring the right things to our customers with the hopefully the right price points. And then the economy of money is we make a lot of our own stuff. Okay, so when we make it, we buy the fabric, we buy the inner linings, we buy the buttons, we buy everything, and then we contract for manufacture with, interestingly, one of the places is not too far from where Tegu is, just made this morning. But in doing that, we're not looking to wholesale our product. We would rather take that product straight from our manufacturing facility to the customer. That way you can skip a wholesale markup, we can keep our prices more competitive. Also, we can have a closer relationship with our customer. Because if I sold, let's say I sold to one of the nicest department stores in New York City, I'm not assured of how they're going to present my stuff. And sure enough, I'm going to walk in there on a, March morning, and there's going to be a jacket kind of hanging off a hanger, and there won't be anybody there to help you. I can't guarantee what the delivery is going to be about. So it's a little bit of a control issue, in doing that. Maybe it's a major control issue. But anyway, that's the economy of money is how do we try to save our customer money in buying our clothes? Because what you buy from us is not inexpensive, but the value proposition is fantastic because it's going to last you for a while.
Okay, now people look at you, and I think on a face value, they go, man, he's been successful at every single level. He must have opened the store, and it was instant success, making money left and right. What really happens?
It's a challenge. And listen, it's been fantastic. And I'm one of those people. Ann, my wife, is a little risk averse. I'm sort of risk embracing. But also the risk that we've taken are fairly calculated because I know what I've been through this. I've designed clothes for some of the top names in the world and know what is marketable. And I also saw the white space. And as I alluded to earlier, I like to look over the hill. And I'm over the hill and I'm saying, Ann, come on over. And she's like, where are you? So that communication of making sure we're on the same page is always a little bit of a tough one. And so anyway,
when I brought it up in our conversation, you and I were at the table, Ann was at the other side of the room, and I said, how long did it take for you guys to turn a profit? And you said, I don't know, 2-3 years. Ann said, 6 years? She was very clear. You guys had two different, you were much more optimistic. Yeah. It was very fun conversation.
We're making money day one. But that's a little bit of the complementary natures of
awesome.
Our personality. But anyway, we've been. That's probably where the biggest stress level is really on our marriage. Because there's going to be some differences of opinion in how you go to market, and we're both have a very strong mind about what's appropriate for the store or not appropriate for the store. And I'll comment on a color of hers, and she's like, "What do you? I like that color." And it can be something as mundane as that. That can be a problem. Pillow talk's powerful, so you have to be careful. And listen, it's also been a nice. Ann and Dave and everybody that works with us can attest. I can be a little hard. I'm a little bit more like the football coach, than Dr. Phil. Anyway. It's been a good learning experience for me, and one great lesson for me when I went to Land's End, the formula for Land's End was quality, value, service, and the mandate they gave me is add some style, but then quickly they said, but not too much, so at Land's End, it was a pretty ensconced customer, and so the guy told me there, he said, Sid, you must let people touch second base on their way to third. You cannot drag them across the pitcher's mound. And so I think to me that told me, just always back off just a touch. Don't quit working hard. Don't quit driving. But you know what? Don't kill everybody else in the process and make wise decisions. And we sleep on things. We do not make. We deliberate. I'm a pretty easy decision maker, but we go through the process. And as David has said, whenever we don't go through the process, we cheat ourselves of the decision making and the necessary litmus around decision making. So whatever's right for each person in here in decision making, they need to stay true to that. And I think that's really, stay true to yourself in general. And that's what we've done, because in the end, we are designers, but we don't put anything in the store that we will not wear. It's just verboten. We're not looking to sell stuff. We're looking to share stuff.
All right, and last question for you before we wrap this up. If you haven't noticed, just sitting with Sid, he said things he's never said to me in previous conversations in this. He has so much knowledge, so much wisdom inside himself, and through a lot of experience, I think. And it was fun to have conversations with you and Ann and hear your different perspectives, but being on the same page, which was encouraging. any last-minute words of advice you'd give to the people in the room around innovation and as they're launching these ideas?
I think it was the fellow before from Chanel that talked about that there will be failure. You're not going to get ahead every time you're up. You may go hitless for a few games, but you gotta. For the football fans out there, they'll understand this. Stay in the pocket. When the pocket's collapsing around you, stand up, stay in it, keep going. Now, when we were in Charlottesville and had our small business, the pocket collapsed completely. I was under the pile, so I had to get up and go do something else. So I went back to New York, which is one thing I was actually avoiding. I didn't want to go back to New York. I was like, it's too much for me right now. But I was taught a lesson. You know what? Sometimes you have to go back, to go forward. And so that business failure was really fantastic for us. As a couple, as a family, and as a businessman. Because also, I got some of my confidence back too when I went back to New York and had some wins. So anyway, stay with your idea too. It may need some shaping and some moving around, but and the final piece for us is we want to be the best store in the world, best shop in the world. Now, what does that mean? That means a lot of things to a lot of people. When we benchmark other companies, we don't really look at any retail or fashion companies. We look at food and we look at hospitality, so hotels and food, because those are the people that are closest to the customer, and it is super intimate. That's what we want. We want that kind of relationship with our customer so that they feel completely taken care of. So if you come in and you say, Sid, I got, my grandmother died and I need a suit this afternoon. We say, well, let's get you in the tailor shop right now and let's take care of it for you. Now, the alterations, schedule is a week to 2 weeks out, but we always have room to take care of things like that. We need and want, it's a privilege. It's fantastic to feel that you can take care of somebody's needs. Oh, I'm going to a black tie thing tonight. Oh, well, we better get you in the tailor shop. By the way, do you want us to drop it at your house? You want to swing back by here, or you want us to meet you at the event? If someone's coming into town that's a customer or a friend or anything, we want to go pick them up at the airport. We want to take them back to the airport. We love serving people. And as one of the guys that came through that we were interviewing, everybody's like, oh, that's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. It's like, do you think he likes to take care of people? And there wasn't, he really didn't have everybody saying yeah. I said, to me, the coolest thing is serving people. That's what's really cool. So.
Well, listen, I'll be honest with you. This is an honor for me to interview you today. And I think it's exciting for being a person that cares really deeply about Atlanta to have a person like you defining what it's becoming. It's encouraging creatively and even from a service standpoint and in a character standpoint, what you believe in. You are making our city better. So please thank Sid Mashburn.